do you believe that she's still alive?
She's the girl who vanished off the face of the earth. No one's seen anything, no one heard anything. There was just nothing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Seeking Answers. And I'm here with Natasha, the sister of Katrice Lee, who went missing in 1981.
A birthday is something to celebrate with loved ones. A time to all come together, have fun and spend time with friends and family. But sometimes all it takes is a few seconds for your entire world to change forever. Katrice Lee was born on November the 28th, 1979, in Rintown, West Germany, to parents Sharon, sister Natasha, and father Richard, who was a staff sergeant in the British Army over in West Germany.
So I believe you were 7 when she was last seen, is that right, yeah?
Yeah, I was 7 years old. I'm 5 years older than Katrice.
Do you have many memories of her, or is it quite hazy?
It's quite hazy. I suppose as you get older, you know, the memories fade, and what you're sort of left with is a really sort of the one that had the most impact, which is the one of her going missing. Yeah. So, you know, I have a cheeky memory of her when we were kids. So we lived in a 3-bedroom flat, and we went through stages where we'd share the 1 bedroom and have the other bedroom as a toy room and stuff like that. So I have sort of like that little memory, a memory of her going through a stage of biting. Because most toddlers go through the stage of biting. That's what kids do. They've got to try it all out, except she always tried to bite me. For me, the biggest memory that I have is just the day that Katrice went missing.
On November the 28th, 1981, Katrice's second birthday, the family were preparing for the party later that day, but needed some final supplies.
My mum was sort of like rushing around in the kitchen, and I just remember saying to my mum, "Oh, I don't want to go shopping today." Mum said, "That's fine, you can stay at home with Cliff." And my Auntie Wendy was my mum's eldest sister. So my mum, my Auntie Wendy and my dad and Katrice went to the supermarket. And what I need to really reiterate to people is it keeps getting reported that the NAAFI that Katrice went missing on was on an army base. It wasn't on an army base. It was how Aldi and Lidl are over here. Yeah. It was a British shop in the middle of a German town.
Richard, Katrice, Sharon and Katrice's Aunt Wendy all went to the NAAFI shopping complex. Nothing out of the ordinary apparent.
They got to the supermarket. It was the last payday before Christmas. It was heaving, there was nowhere to park. My Auntie Wendy, my mum and Katrice got out of the car. My dad said he'd circle round and try and find somewhere to park, and he'd meet them out there. So mum said that Katrice wouldn't go in the trolley. Typical toddlers, they either go in the trolley or they don't. Mum said she carried Katrice around the store. They got to the checkout. She said to my Auntie Wendy, "Oh God, I haven't got the crisps." She put Katrice down next to my Auntie Wendy, went sort of like from the checkout to the end of the aisle to pick the crisps up. So basically in the time it took both of them to turn their heads, she just vanished. So as my mum turns back round again and she gets to the checkout, she says to my Auntie Wendy, "Where's Katrice?" And my Auntie Wendy said, "Katrice followed you."
In that second, she just vanished. Just
gone. And apparently my mum was so shocked. So I don't know, for a few seconds, she just continued to stand in the queue. And then I think the realisation must have dawned on my mum that actually, you know, like there's a couple of seconds it takes to register everything. My mum had gone back round the store shouting Katrice's name, and there was nothing. And my Auntie Wendy had apparently seen a Royal Military Police lady on one of the other checkouts, and so she stopped her. And apparently it's alleged, I don't have proof, that my Auntie Wendy overheard the military police lady say this would have to happen on my shift.
Wow.
So yeah, quite an impactful statement to make, really.
She had quite literally disappeared without a trace. Katrice Lee had curly light brown hair, brown eyes. She had a pink birthmark on the right base of her spine which resembled a rash. She had a vision disorder called strabismus, which meant her eyes wouldn't align properly when she was focusing on an object. Most would identify it as a squint or a lazy eye.
I was born with a squint. and I've needed 2 eye operations to try and straighten it. I mean, God knows what it looked like if I hadn't had the operations. So I've had 2 eye operations for it because my eye turned in, which Katrice did exactly the same. There is also a mark on Katrice's back that is exactly the same as mine. I'm careful about what I give away because of the nutters that claim to be Katrice. It's just ridiculous at the moment. Oh yeah, you're going to love them.
At the time, she was wearing red Wellington boots, a turquoise duffel coat, a blue tartan pinafore dress with frills around the shoulders, with a white blouse underneath and white tights. Despite having lived in Germany since she was born, Katrice could only speak English.
So how long did you live in Germany for?
So moved back over there when I was 5 and Katrice was born out there. She was born in Rintown. And then I moved back over to the UK when I think I was about 18, 19. Obviously, the last thing you want to do is I didn't want to leave my sister behind because that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly what I thought I was doing. And I expect both my parents felt exactly the same. They didn't really want to leave their daughter behind.
No, absolutely. So I did read that. So Katrice, obviously, I know she was only 2. She only spoke English.
Yes.
Did you, as a family, speak German? I mean, you had only just moved there at that point.
Pidgin German, really, is what you'd call it, or like how you do like the pidgin English, like people do speak pidgin English. So but obviously, being out there for quite a long time, I used to be able to speak it quite a lot. I mean, I can't anymore. Yeah. It's been a long time. I'm 48 now, so it's been a long time since I lived out there. But you spoke enough to get you by, and you obviously tried to interact with people. But like you say, Katrice, being only literally, she was 2 the day she went missing. It was her birthday that day. She wouldn't have been able to speak it. I mean, I could probably say ya and nine. I mean, I was 7, so you're just sort of coming into yourself with your own language, really, to then have to think about, doing another one. So there was one not long after Katrice went missing, and it was somebody had found a little girl playing in a puddle or something, but the girl didn't speak German.
Okay.
So she couldn't be understood. It was all a bit mixed up, and I really, because obviously only being 7, I only picked up bits and pieces when I was younger. I think they took her to a police station, I think, and although someone came in, but she didn't speak German, but they let her go.
Do you think that could have been Katrice?
I have no idea. I mean, I literally have no idea.
Outside, Richard began to notice that the family were taking a particularly long time for such a short shopping trip. I stood for what seemed like a lifetime. It was probably about 30 minutes. Even though it was very busy, I knew Sharon wouldn't take that long because she would have diligently followed her list and got every item she could. I had a gut feeling something wasn't right. I then thought I'd better see if they needed help to carry things or whether something untoward had happened. I asked what was going on. Wendy immediately said,
"Katrice has gone missing."
Soldier mode kicked in. I grabbed every soldier I could see from my unit in the supermarket. It was at least half a dozen, if not more. We did a ground search around the area to no avail. If you lose sight of your child, your heart goes in your mouth. I've never felt anything like it. That was the start of our nightmare.
My dad came in the flat. I was on my knees playing against the sofa, and we had like Playmobil was the big thing out in Germany, right? I was playing with that, and my dad just come in, and his words were, "We can't find Katrice." And being 7 years old, at that moment in time, you're thinking, well, that's okay, because, she'll turn up. Because in my head, I'm 7 years old, and like a toy turns up within a couple of days, everything's going to be hunky-dory, and everything's going to be rosy in the garden. Along the main strip of Schloss Neuhaus, there's this great big huge furniture store, huge great big glass windows. And I remember walking up to there with my dad and my Uncle Cliff. My mum was stood out, she got out of the car, she was outside the car, and she was just screaming and screaming and screaming. I have never, ever heard my mum scream like that before, and I've never heard her scream like that again. And when I talk about it, I can hear it, and it is quite blood curdling. I got in the car and I'm sort of sat between my mum and my auntie Wendy, and just thinking, I suppose in 7-year-old speak, I mean, I'm going to say it in grown-up speak now, but oh God, something's really wrong. There's something really bad's happened.
However, people at the supermarket weren't questioned, and the story wasn't even made public until 6 weeks had passed, possibly ruining any potential sightings or evidence.
The people in the supermarket weren't actually questioned until, was it 6
Correct.
weeks later? Is that right?
Correct, and some of them for like 18 years later.
Initially, the police believed the girl had fallen into the River Lip. However, not only is this river rather shallow, so she would have easily been sighted, they dredged the entire thing anyway and found nothing.
How do you process that? So, like, my daughter's 6 and she has a vague understanding of death, but for someone to go missing, and then when it's speculated all over the news as well.
Katrice went missing. There wasn't much press that happened. They decided that she drowned in a river that was really close, so they did nothing for the first 48 hours, which by then it was too late. They didn't close any borders down. It took a year to get us the tiniest little snippet into I think it was the Sun newspaper. You know, for me growing up, it was really weird because it's happened. I've sort of dealt with it now. As in, like, I'm a 48-year-old woman. The last time I seen my sister was like 41 years ago. I can't honestly say to you the moment, other than when I heard my mum screaming, was that's when I knew there was something really, really wrong.
Our world changed that day. For it to have happened on a birthday of all days rubbed salt into the wound. Katrice was a typical 2-year-old, as cantankerous as any young child, and we were as normal a family as it was possible to be in the armed forces and living abroad. Richard and Sharon ended up separating in 1989 and divorcing the following year, but they never gave up hope that their little girl was still alive out there.
So my parents divorced, and everyone says the question, was it to do with Katrice going missing? No, I think inevitably, even if Katrice hadn't have gone missing, that potentially could have happened.
It wasn't until 2000, 19 years since the disappearance, when computer technology gave us an idea of what Katrice might look like today. This brought the case back to public interest. A man came out to claim that he was actually standing behind them in the line at the checkout, and the cashier herself also spoke out, but neither saw who took the child.
I couldn't find any specifics in their statements. Did you know if they provided anything that could have been used or?
No, I still now, all this time, can't get my head around it. Just cannot get my head around that nobody's seen anything, nobody heard anything. Yeah. Personally, I'd just like an answer now. And in an ideal world, I'd love my sister to have been living the best life there is, you know, great big house, fancy car, you know, playing happy families and all that. We all want that right out of life, the fairy tale ending. But I also sort of know there is not always a fairy tale ending.
Yeah.
So, and I think for me, I just now need that answer, whether Katrice is dead or alive, and no matter how difficult that's going to be for me to have to deal with. I think now it's just come to that point in time where I'm like, it's gone on too long. We did a Crime Watch appeal, and a lady phoned up and basically said there was a dad in my guy's regiment. What we were told was they were on holiday or something, sat in a caravan, and he said to her, I've got something to tell you. And she said, what is it? And he said, I abducted a young girl, I raped her and I murdered her and I burnt her remains and buried them by a riverbank. So they went out to arrest him. He lived in Northumberland. They said to him, we're arresting you for the abduction and murder of Katrice Lee. And he said, I'll get my coat. They spoke to him, they interviewed him at the police station, and they decided that he was a fantasist and decided that basically he hadn't done anything. We had a cold case review, I think it was, by a Welsh cold case team, who basically said to us that the military police had buggered up the interview. They asked him too many questions too soon, so now we'll never know unless some new evidence comes to light, and then they'll be able to go and investigate. They'll be able to go in and question him. The Welsh cold case team have denied ever saying that to me and my mum. Hand on my heart, that is what they said. I've got no reason to lie about it. Katrice still isn't here. It's not brought her home, so why would I lie?
The woman who accused him passed away not long after, and this was soon dropped. It's believed that she was kidnapped by a family who couldn't have their own children, and she was raised by them completely unaware of her true identity.
For years and years and years, 100%, there was never any doubt in my mind that Katrice had been taken by a family that couldn't have children. I think it wasn't until it got to like 2018 when they started digging for a body that the realisation was that actually, although you sort of know that those things could have happened anyway, I think the realisation for me was like, oh God, you know, she could actually be dead.
I think what makes this case very different to a lot of others is how young she was. With other cases, obviously you can kind of, if you were to meet them again, you'd possibly be able to recognize them.
Yeah.
As she went missing at just the age of 2, she would, if she is still here, she would potentially believe that whoever took her is her biological parents. She would have no memory of who she is.
If we find Katrice, and God, I just hope we do, and obviously alive, and she doesn't want to know me, I'll be devastated, but I have to accept that. But at least I know.
Yeah.
Some believe she is in Germany, the United Kingdom, or somewhere else in Europe. Natasha did appear on Crime Watch, and this led to an anonymous woman reaching out to claim that she was in France, but nothing ever came of this. Her eye condition would mean that she would have needed 2 medical operations to correct, leading to medical personnel in the area being questioned to see if they had operated on a child, but none were found. But it's possible that too many years had now passed for us to know for sure. In 2012, the case was reopened as the police believed they made mistakes in the initial case, even publicly apologising to the family for this. However, things would only get worse as 32-year-old Donna Wright from Durham created a Facebook profile under Katrice's name and sent her sister Natasha a friend invite. She even agreed to a DNA test, which determined that she was not Katrice Lee. Once this was revealed, she began sending spiteful messages to the family over Facebook.
I don't know for Donna if she had a DNA test, I can't confirm that, but she claimed to be Katrice. She was messaging me, she was messaging my mum, she was in contact with the charity Missing People who do a wonderful job. They've just been literally amazing. She was contacting them saying she was Katrice. Allegedly, and I'll say allegedly, she was a drug addict and had unfortunately lost her children because of the drugs. For me, what hit home for me was the day she messaged me and she said, well, I've took all my children to a supermarket and never managed to lose any of them. And I thought at that moment in time, if you were stood in front of me, I would not be holding back right now. In the end, she called my dad at my dad's house because my dad's phone number was in the phone book, because you never know, right? You never know. Although he's moved over here, you just don't know. And she phoned him up and I think it was about midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. Dad rushed down the stairs because thought, bloody hell, what's happened to Tash? And actually she said, can't remember her words about it, was that Katrice's dad or something like that? And he said, hiya Donna. She went, my name's not Donna Wright. So she literally gave herself away instantly. So anyway, it was at that moment it then went to court and she served 6 weeks in prison for harassment because she'd been doing that to me, to my mum, to one of my best friends, Wendy, like whoever she could get an audience with, basically, that's what she was doing.
So when she initially messaged you, was there any part of you who thought it could have been Katrice, or you just immediately knew?
Yeah. I just think for me, anybody who seriously thinks there's somebody who's missing, why would you contact the sister? Because I don't have instant DNA kits and I can't send a DNA kit out to somebody and go, take a swab of that and I'll forward it on to the forensics department for you. And I know I sound like I'm being really flippant. I can't do anything for anybody. And I kept saying to people, if you think you're Katrice, go to Upper Butte, because they'll go through the criteria. They'll decide whether or not you're the right age, I don't know, hair colouring, eye colour, I don't know, whatever. They'll make all the decisions that they need to make and do their checklist or whatever, and then they'll decide whether or not they're going to do DNA. I, as Katrice's sister, do not have a DNA kit. I cannot do DNA.
Just to update people, for the past 12 months, my family has had to endure an individual pretending to be Katrice, my missing daughter. After a lengthy process, the individual will appear in court shortly. I unfortunately cannot say any more, but will update you as and when. Can you imagine your sister has been missing for 37 years and you see a friend request on Facebook? You open it and you see a picture of your sister asking to be your friend. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and a personality disorder, and supposedly began receiving psychiatric treatment. We are a family already enduring any parent's nightmare, and she has come along to take my family away from our true aim, which is to find Katrice.
I'd made the decision that in 2018, because I was getting married, that I was going to do nothing for Katrice that year. I was just going to have a year that was going to be all about me. And then in the end of 2017 is when they told us that they were going to they'd been liaising with a farmer and they were going to basically go and dig near the River Alma for Katrice's body. Something had happened. They were like, you need to go and do this. That's what they were going to go and do. At that moment in time, my heart sank but part of me was like, it was a really mixed bag of emotions. Because it was like, really deep down, I don't want her to be there, but I also did want her to be there, because then actually we've got the closure and then we knew who'd done it. Because go back to the Crime Watch situation where the guy had said they found nothing. I got married, the best month of my life. Just that whole year had been marred by the Katrice search and stuff. And they went back out to interview this guy because he was in a nursing home and he died. Too late, they were too late. I can't tell you the amount of emotion, anger that I feel. Like everything with Katrice has been just too little too late. In between the Donna and the Heidi, I had loads of others because you always get the nut jobs. And I've got 2 current nut jobs at the moment. It's been going on for the last 2 years. So one of them claimed to be Katrice, had a DNA done eventually by the military police when they decided that because of my mental health, they would go and do a DNA after me basically screaming to them down the phone and saying, can't you just do it? It's like 200 or 300 quid, just do it and it'll all be okay. They did the DNA. It was confirmed that she wasn't Katrice. Her words to the lady senior officer in charge were, well, I know who I really am. And my words to Zoe were, this isn't over. For someone to come out and say that, this is not over. I'd made a series of complaints. I'd been liaising with Bedfordshire Police, and on Sunday I received an email saying that they went out to do an arrest on her. They found out she was in a psychiatric unit, and so they weren't able to press charges. So basically they're going to file my case. Thanks for that. And then if it happens again, I need to dial 101. Amazing. I mean, thanks for the support. I've had another one in between, and this one I just could like smack myself in the face because part of it's my own fault. It was actually on Katrice's birthday 2 years ago, and she was claiming to be psychic, and she's from Northumberland. She was claiming to be psychic. She was on a British Forces Germany page, and I messaged her privately and said, look, don't put anything psychic on the pages. I'm happy to answer any questions you've got, because at the end of the day, I'm desperate. I'm desperate to know what's happened to my sister, whether she's dead, whether she's alive. I just want to know. She's just starting off with her gift, so I was having conversations with her, and I did think at times the conversations had gone a bit random and a bit nutty, but I just thought, because I very much believe in psychics, I don't want to diss them, right? I don't want to diss them at all, because I very much believe there are some very good ones out there. There are some rogues out there. So I was conversing with her. It's probably, like I said, it was about 2 years. And then last year, when I sort of felt like messages were going a bit too weird, she messaged me and she said to me, do you know who I am? And from that moment on, I was like, excuse my French, holy shit, I've got a nut job again. They have now done her DNA test. Guess what? She's not Katrice. I just feel like as a family, call us a victim, call us whatever you like. We're already going through enough stuff. We don't need people like that. And genuinely, if you do think you're Katrice, go to the police. Don't come to me. Can't do anything to help.
It wasn't until 2017, 36 years after the disappearance, when it was revealed that a report had somehow been lost and buried by the police. 3.5 decades earlier, a man was actually spotted carrying a child away in the area into a green car. A sketch was drawn of this suspect, but due to the sheer amount of time passed, it's unlikely that this would ever lead to more information.
I was contacted by a lady who, I believe she's genuine. She claims to be psychic. And when I said to her, I've just had somebody say that to me, and then they've just actually turned out they are Katrice, she said, I wouldn't do that and I don't think that. And I just said to her, look, I don't have any money to pay you. So she said that she felt an army guy had taken Katrice out of the NAAFI that day and had raped and murdered her and has buried her in like a training ground. And she felt that Katrice wouldn't be found for quite a while. And I just said, well, that's not really good enough, because, you know, I just really would like to find her if she is dead. At that moment in time when she told me that, I'm not even really interested in who's done it. It's just like to bring her home. I couldn't care about the other stuff, but I know what will happen is when we find her, and if we find her because of that lady, when that's all done, if you like, in the sense of Katrice is buried and stuff like that, then does come the answer of, okay, well, who did it? But I sent this lady the photo fit, and she said to me, he needs to be, his eyes need to be, I think, more sunken in, his face needs to be slimmer, and then you've got the nail on the head. And I asked her about the car, and I said to her, what colour car was it? And she said to me, oh, I don't know what colour it was. I couldn't tell you. I'm not very good with that. And it has been reported. It is on in the domain, as like you just said, a green car. But then I just think, I don't know, it's like, was green a common colour out in Germany at the time? It's just really difficult, isn't it?
However, in 2019, it would only continue as 40-year-old Heidi Robinson from Morton also created an account pretending to be Katrice once again.
So allegedly, she was suffering from psychosis. She was put on a tag, ordered to pay me £500. Like, who cares about the money? She was on tag till the April afterwards. And apparently the judge said, you know, well, if she does it again, she'll be in prison, sort of thing, when she hasn't done it again, so she's extremely lucky.
On September the 24th, 2019, a man was actually arrested in Swindon under suspicion of being involved in the disappearance 38 years earlier.
And, and then I get a call out of the blue in 2019 that says, Tash, I need to let you know, it's my family liaison officer, I need to let you know that they have arrested somebody. And I said, well, in connection with what? And she said, I don't know, I'll have to go and find out. Basically, it was for the abduction and murder, and they were digging up a garden in Swindon. There was a police officer, I think it was, coming out with a black box. So I phoned my family liaison officer, and I was actually at college at the time studying for my level 5 in HR. So I'm trying to hold down a full-time job, go to college, know that they're digging for my sister's body potentially. Then the police don't pre-warn me that there's been items taken out of the house. So all I get is this shot shared to my page. So I called my family liaison officer and said, is my effing sister in that box? Because instantly I've gone to, that's it.
Yeah.
Her words were, I did think that was going to happen. I did think that you would call me. And I'm thinking, why doesn't anybody call me? And they wonder why we have not an awful lot of respect for them. Still don't know to this day what was in the boxes. Just items were taken away. But of course, from the September to February, I had to wait. In that time, I had to have a couple of weeks off work because, as me and my boss called it, just because it's how I could cope with it, was I went a bit flip-flop. I went a bit stir-crazy. I think the 2018, the 2019 had just got too much. My brain just needed to rest. They didn't find anything. So that's from the September. Then fast forward to February, and I'm having a conversation with the senior officer in charge at the time who couldn't actually grasp what that was doing to my head. From the September to the February. And actually on Valentine's Day, I got a message to say that nothing in there was related to Katrice. But I can never forget the guy's words. He said to me, I'm really sorry you're having such a difficult time with this.
Bit of an understatement.
We all want answers. We've been to hell and back over the past 37 years. This arrest, of course, brings it all back and makes it feel raw. As with parents in all cases of missing children, we want a happy ending, but that might not be the case, and we just hope that we will get answers. I often get asked, does it get easier? No, it doesn't. People also say, give up, she's gone, accept it. They can't be parents or they wouldn't make those comments. I find it frustrating other high-profile cases have had so much publicity and funding. No one child is more important than another. I wouldn't want to take her from her life, but I could be a grandfather and not know it. If I don't speak out, how will people know Katrice is still missing? How will she find her real parents?
I mean, I'll never forgive whoever's taken them. I can't lie and say that I will ever forgive anybody for doing what they've done. But for me, all I want to know now is answers, really. So is she dead? Is she alive? If she's dead, well, where is she? Because actually, I don't think it's right that anybody should be laying in the middle of nowhere. And I know that it's only their physical body. I mean, I've done so many different thoughts. It's like completely bizarre, just spins around in circles. If she's out there in the middle of a wood somewhere, she needs to be brought home. She needs to be laid in a proper grave where we can go and grieve and we can put flowers. But also, I think about, well, if she is found and she is living a lie with a family, actually that destroys her whole world. It hasn't just destroyed mine and my mum's and my dad's. We're going to destroy her whole world as well. So there's this real difficult, the nice side of Tash always thinks about that. But then the horrible selfish side of me just goes, well, actually, I just want to know. And I don't really care about that.
There's a couple of things there that don't quite add up to me. Obviously, this was 1981, so I don't think supermarkets had CCTV in every supermarket. But it's the fact, like you said, your mum and your aunt just turn your heads, and in a crowded supermarket, no one saw a 2-year-old get picked up in about, 5-10 seconds?
Yeah.
Your dad was also in the car park. He didn't see like a scream. I'm assuming she would scream if a stranger had picked her up.
Yeah, but my mum said, it doesn't matter how crowded a room is, you will hear your own child cry.
Yeah.
You can pick it out. So then my head always turns to, it was someone we knew.
That does, yeah. And obviously she would be 43 now if she is still alive. And obviously with the explosion of social media, as I've proven and the nut jobs have proven, it's quite easy to get a hold of you. But like you say, you'd want to make sure you are Katrice before contacting family. Do you believe that she's still alive?
90% of me, yeah.
And she could watch this, she could see herself on the news and just have no idea.
No idea. I was contacted by somebody who said, I hope you're Katrice's sister. I just wanted to let you know this has been bugging me for ages. At the time that your sister went missing, there was a guy serving in the American Army. His name was Earl J.W. Cox, and he's actually serving life, I think, in America for the abduction, rape and murder of a few young girls. And he was in the area at the time that Katrice went missing, because Senlager and Sloshnoy House, in Senlager we had like a big NATO barracks. So I contacted the military police about it and just said, can you look into it? And it was a bit weird because what I do is I'll then go and have a Google of them. So I did that and found the picture on the internet of this younger guy with dark hair and a mustache, and I was like, holy shit, I've been sent that photo before by somebody and I couldn't work out who it was. I spoke to my family liaison officer about it and they said they were going to look into it. They were going to speak to the senior officer in charge. When I asked for some stuff to do with like what that psychic said about Katrice being buried, I asked the question again about it, what's happening with the LJW Cox thing, and my family liaison officer said, well, I don't know anything about that. And I said, we spoke about this and you were going to go and speak to Zoe about it. Anyway, she hadn't. So when I was phoning up to ask some other questions about the DNA tests for the 2 other people that I've currently got causing me hassle, I said, what's going on with the Earl J.W. Cox thing? Oh, Laura will tell you, Laura will update you. Will it be helpful if my family liaison officer, who is currently Laura, would answer a phone, answer emails and answer texts?
So you just not heard anything about it since?
No, nothing. Had Katrice have gone missing in this country, regardless of it being 1981, had it have been by the civilian police, we might have had a fighting chance. But they made really bad errors and that's affected our lives. We're never gonna, we can't relive that. We can't go back in time. God, if I had a time machine, I'd go back to 28th November 1981 and I would not be letting Katrice go shopping with my mum.
However, in 2020, the police decided after 39 years to scale back the investigation. I'm absolutely gutted. And all I can say is that parents out there, if they were in my shoes, they would do what I'm doing. I think it's rather sad that at the 39-year point, I'm still fighting for justice for my daughter, when all the indications, even in their investigations, have almost proven that she was abducted from day one. And here we are, still struggling to get answers to the questions we ask.